Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's 1 million by 1 million online rendezvous. I'm coming to you from Silicon Valley live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. This is Sramana Mitra, founder and CEO of 1 million by 1 million, the first and only global virtual accelerator in the world. As you know, our mission is to help 1 million entrepreneurs reach $1 million and beyond in annual revenue. And we support entrepreneurs globally on a daily basis through our various different touch points. So today in these sessions, in today's session and in regular sessions like these, the online rendezvous as we call them, I normally do Q&A. So we receive a lot of questions from various different touch points, and I curate a set of those and answer them at these sessions. And for those of you who are either already entrepreneurs working on a business or perhaps thinking about starting a business, if you want feedback on your project, we also have on a weekly basis our weekly online roundtables, and those are safe working sessions where you can bring your projects and I will work with you and strategize and brainstorm with you on your project specifically. So to access that, please go to the website 1mby1m.com and then go to free public roundtables. You'll find all the instructions there. So let's get started. We are in a couple of months into the coronavirus lockdown. I have in prior sessions during the lockdown, I have dealt with a lot of coronavirus questions. One style of questions that is becoming recurrent and continuous in the stream that I look at is about starting companies. It seems that people have time right now because of the lockdown, and they would like to start something, or at least start doing the research on starting a company, or figure out where to find ideas, how to validate ideas, and so on and so forth. So today's session is going to be largely around starting new companies, finding new ideas, and so on and so forth. Okay, so the first question that I'm going to answer is, what does it mean becoming obsessed with a problem, not a solution, with respect to technology entrepreneurship? Well, the first answer actually I will give you is, you need an unfair advantage to be obsessed. And today, throughout this session, you will hear me use these words, unfair advantage, quite a lot. An unfair advantage normally comes from either deep domain knowledge or deeply experiencing a problem that helps you build conviction. So you can only be obsessed if you have that kind of deep domain knowledge or experience a problem really deeply, around which you can develop both the unfair advantage and that deep obsession, which leads you to a really powerful business idea that you feel passionate about. And the reason this is important is that I don't think you can be successful in building a company unless you're obsessed with what you want to work on. So this is a nice segue into our next question. What is the best way to come up with ideas for a startup? I would say find a niche and execute relentlessly. And I'm going to give you an example. Heidi Janenga was a physiotherapist in Arizona. She knew nothing about startups. She, however, knew her domain of physiotherapy and the problems that domain comes with. Heidi and her co-founder built a Sass solution for managing physiotherapy clinics. She knew how to manage a physiotherapy clinic. She knew what were the gaps, and she built a SaaS product to address those gaps. Initially, they bootstrapped this company called WebPT. Then they raised a small angel round. In 2016, their revenue was $40 million. The company has since sold a 51% stake to private equity. The founders have already experienced significant liquidity. Do you see the power of niche domain knowledge? So one of the questions you need to ask yourselves, what is your niche domain expertise? What is your unfair advantage? And then start thinking how you can productize that knowledge. So we will talk a lot more today about ideas and how to come up with ideas and so forth. Here's a question. Why do you think entrepreneurs are overconfident, and how do you think that contributes to the actual outcome? Well, entrepreneurs are overconfident to some extent, yes. Because you kind of have to have some outsized level of confidence and conviction to take the leap into the unknown the way entrepreneurs do, and the way I have done over and over in my life. But there is a blind spot that perhaps causes more overconfidence than what is healthy. Entrepreneurs don't know what they don't know. They think VCs are waiting to write checks. For example, there are many things that fall into that don't know what they don't know category. One of them, and here's an example, they think that VCs are waiting to write checks and they just have to land in front of one to get such a check, get funded. No. VCs are in the business of saying no. I wrote a piece on my blog some time back called Funding Rejection Statistics of Key Players. You've often heard me say that over 99% of the entrepreneurs who seek financing are rejected. This post offers a set of rejection statistics culled from credible sources on some of the key players. Y Combinator, it's 97.15%. The Economist did an analysis of this. Y Combinator, for a batch of 74 accepted entrepreneurs, they got 2,600 applications. So do the math. Angel list, rejection statistics 98.8%. So, very few obviously get funded. Andreessen Horowitz, this is actually very interesting. Here's a quote from Mark Andreessen. At our venture capital firm, I quote, "We only invest in a sort of Silicon Valley style tech. We see 3,000 inbound deals a year, and those are inbound and coming through our referral network. So those are sort of pre-qualified. We can do maybe 15 or 20 investments out of the 3,000 a year. So I like to say our day job is crushing entrepreneurs' hopes and dreams. Our main skill is saying no and getting people to not hate us." So I do want to say something in response to Mark's comment about crushing entrepreneurs' hopes and dreams. If you're an entrepreneur, you should be perfectly comfortable being turned down. With my first time out to raise money, I received 44 no's before I got money from NEA. So you have to develop a very thick skin, and you really have to find a fine balance between your own conviction and your own, confidence in what is it that you're trying to do. But at the same time, Try to understand why investors are saying no. What is the reason that they're turning you down? Because good VCs have good ways to analyze entrepreneurial ventures. And you need to understand the reasoning behind why they're saying no. And that would help you plug the gaps in your thinking, in your strategy. I learned a lot from VCs. In my career, one of the reasons why I have become so good at working with entrepreneurs and shepherding them to their next level and accelerating their journey is because of what I learned from VCs and their process of very rapidly poking holes in your business strategy, such that if you pay attention to that and if you can quickly process what they're saying, you actually end up with better business strategies. So that's just the VC process. So you don't as an entrepreneur, you have to create enough of a fortification, emotional and psychological fortification within yourself, that you don't allow VCs to crush your dreams and hopes. That is not on. Because at the end of the day, let a VC turn you down, you always have the option of bootstrapping your company. And eventually, our philosophy has always been bootstrap first, raise money later. If you can bootstrap your way to a certain degree of validation and even sometimes traction, VCs actually come after you. You don't have to go after VCs at that point. VCs fall all over themselves to want to invest in good companies. So just because you hear no from investors doesn't mean that you let them crush your hopes and dreams. So you have to actually prove Mark Andreessen wrong on a daily basis if you want to be a successful entrepreneur. Okay, next question. How do you start an AI company? Well, you need to first find an idea that fills a gap. The AI startup market is very crowded right now. I would advise you to focus on vertical domain-specific AI-enabled solutions as opposed to broad horizontal platforms. This is not to say that entrepreneurs are not doing broad horizontal platforms. I actually am in touch with entrepreneurs who are doing broad horizontal platforms as well and successfully. But by and large, those are serial entrepreneurs who've had success before and who know what they're doing and have money of their own. So if you're neither of those, if you're a first-time entrepreneur trying to do something, you are better off, because you're going to have to bootstrap to validation, you're better off doing something in vertical domain-specific AI, especially in a domain where you have solid insights. Could be financial services, could be insurance, could be healthcare, could be automotive, could be logistics, retail, whatever. But find a problem that gains serious value from the application of AI. And ensure that you have a strategy to get to that data upon which you would apply your AI algorithms. This is the secret of good AI, right? You have to plug in good data sets upon which the AI algorithms are going to work. So you need a strategy of how you're going to access that data, how you're going to access that data to develop the algorithms. And then when you are in deployment, where are those data sources? How are you going to get access to them to make your AI work? A few more pointers here in how to go about finding ideas. We, as in 1 million by 1 million, on our blog, we do a Thought Leaders in Artificial Intelligence series. At the end of every interview, I ask people, what are the open problems in your segment? And you can look for ideas there. Each of the interviewees offer good insights. We also have a Thought Leaders in Big Data series that has the same format. That's also a lot of AI. Big data is basically AI, right? Applied to large volumes of data. So same format and same insights. You will get insights from people I've interviewed. Let me give you a little bit of a flavor. In one of the interviews, I had Shantanu Nigam, CEO of JV on. And at the end of the interview, I asked him, what open problems do you see in your space? And Shantanu says, healthcare cost is about 18% of our GDP. This is double the average of all the developed nations. Why is it so high? Our quality of care is not that good. Why? A big percentage of our cost is wasted. There are dollars that are not helping anybody. That waste comes from avoidable harm. What else has happened in the last few years? We've gotten a lot of data. Data is more readily available, storage is cheaper, processing is cheaper. How do you look at that change and try to apply it to the same problem? As you get more data and more processing, there are better ways of going back to the same underlying problem. There are two ways. One would be more and more of the push will happen towards avoiding these costs. That will translate to more data exchange. The problem that is already happening is of lack of infrastructure and security. You have problems happening with the privacy and security. Laws are there, policies are there. On the technology side, we're just getting there. We have to do a lot more. The second thing is more proactive wellness programs, which could be genetic. More proactive companies fit so well in the direction that CMS is taking now to reduce avoidable harm. They're also well geared to capitalize and leverage with more data and processing power. So, these are just pointers. If this resonates it will resonate with you if you have some insights in that domain. So you have to find in all the different interviews, you'll have to find one where you have some domain knowledge and you can take the pointer that the interviewee gives you and then go dig into that space. So immerse yourself in what's happening by way of startups in the AI space and see what resonates with you. I also suggest you immerse yourself in entrepreneurship case studies to catalyze the kind of thinking that leads one to come up with good ideas. So here are some places you can find entrepreneurship case studies. On our blog, on 1mby1m.com, you will find, if you go to the blog section, you will find on the left navigation column, you'll find a series called Entrepreneur Journeys. If you click on that, there are thousands of case studies there, and they're all available for free. You can just start reading. We have published 12 books, all case study based, published under the Entrepreneur Journey series title. They're all available on Amazon digitally. So that's also a starting point. These are books that click down on specific topics. So there are books on bootstrapping. There's a book on bootstrapping with a paycheck. There's a book on bootstrapping with services. There's a book called $1 Billion Unicorns. There's a book on positioning, etc. So you can, start learning by studying those case studies. And then go to the 1M by 1M basic program. That is a case study based online curriculum. That is our curriculum only option. It is not free, but it costs just $99 a month. And it's thousands of hours of curriculum material. And if you start studying, you're going to learn a lot of methodology. So I hope one of these methods work for you to gain access to quality case studies with which to learn entrepreneurship and zero in on a particular idea. And in this process, as typically happens, you could come up with more than one idea, and that's perfectly normal. You need to assess the viability of each of those ideas and finalize one to work on. For that, here's a tool. This is a free tool. You go to the website, 1mby1m.com, and go to self-assessment. This is a questionnaire that VCs would use to question you to evaluate your business. I suggest you use it yourselves and learn how to test your idea. And then, of course, the free public roundtables, you can come to any of them. They're all online. Over 150,000 entrepreneurs have attended them from all over the world. You're welcome to come and discuss with me. They happen normally on Thursdays at 8 a.m. Pacific time. So that's my answer to your question about how to find AI startup, how to start an AI company. Um, a related question is, how can one get the latest news about business ideas in machine learning, data science, and information retrieval? This is very similar, very, very similar answer. If you start developing the habit of reading the thought leaders in big data, thought leaders in AI interview series on the blog, you will, learn about what's happening in those spaces, what are open problems, what's interesting, what's not interesting, etc. So again, some examples is a guy called Ganesh Keshari, co-founder of head of Grammarly. He is doing a startup in the data visualization space and knows a lot about that space. So in one of the open problem discussion, he talked a lot about, what are the gaps in the data visualization space. So you will, I've had conversations with Harry Glaser of Periscope on the Thought Leaders in Big Data series, where he talks about integration within the data space. So, all these are good possibilities. And, one thing I've been telling people to do of late is because you have time now, and for a while there's going to be time in our hands. So even when the economy opens up, it's going to open up slowly, and you're going to have to find things to do to develop yourselves and to learn and so on. I think you should open up your Google or Apple Calendar, whatever you use, and put a block of a 1 hour block and put in there study time. And every day when that hour comes up, you go to the 1 million by 1 million blog and start reading case studies, start leading the thought leadership interviews, start reading the Entrepreneur Journey series. And if every day you read 5, let's say, of these, what it would do is you would get into the heads of entrepreneurs who have done it before, from scratch mostly. They've done from zero. They've gone from zero to a successful business, and you get to travel that experience with them in each of these stories. They're all interviews. So what it kind of stimulates the idea of going and having a coffee with one of these guys, or going and having lunch with one of these guys, and they're telling you the story of how they did it. So every day you are having coffee with 5 successful entrepreneurs, and you're learning how they've done it. What this will give you is, one, inspiration, because it's very, very inspiring to read these stories. And secondly, it's going to give you methodology. You will learn how they did it, because they've been very generous. They share very generously how they did it. And that is going to give you confidence. So that is going to empower you. So you get inspiration, you get empowerment, and every day if you do that, you're going to feel better about your journey. You're going to develop that fortification, which will help you not get discouraged, your hopes and dreams not get crushed by Mark Andreessen or anybody else in the VC community saying no to you. If you do, let's say you do this for 30 days, you meet, quote unquote, 5 entrepreneurs a day, you have met, by the end of 30 days, you've met 150 entrepreneurs. And I promise you, you'll love it. So my guess is, after doing this for 30 days, you would want to do it forever. So I would say, develop the habit and keep doing it for as long as you can, and just develop knowledge. Develop a habit of studying, develop a habit of meeting entrepreneurs on a regular basis, and it will help you tremendously. So I will take a question, going back to questions about startup ideas. E-commerce. E-commerce is very hot right now. So the question is, how do you find ideas about starting an e-commerce venture? It's very hot, but it's also very crowded. But I do believe there are always niche e-commerce opportunities. So I'm going to point you to 4 key trends that I have observed in talking to e-commerce companies. One is vertical marketplace is the key trend. So whether it's consumer to consumer marketplace, consumer to small business marketplace, or a B2B marketplace, vertical marketplace is a very big trend at the moment. So look into that, see if there's one vertical in which you have expertise. And this could be, steel trading, it could be oil and gas, it could be, shirts, it could be all kinds of things that you could build a vertical marketplace around. Crafts, Etsy is a very interesting crafts marketplace that has done very well, so on and so forth. A second trend is SaaS-powered vertical marketplaces. This is a further nuanced variation on that trend. This is interesting. Different marketplaces have different SaaS product needs to run their businesses. And what these SaaS-powered vertical marketplaces are doing is they're charging subscription to the people who want to use that SaaS product to run their businesses. And as a result, there are product catalogs that are coming onto the system, and then they're also turning that into a marketplace. This is a very smart strategy. I like it a lot. Personalization is one of the most important trends in the segment. Personalization creates much stickier online experiences. And that's why that is a big driver in e-commerce. Experiential shopping online is a variation of the personalization trend where you can really push the envelope. And all these technologies like AR, VR, etc., are parts of that experiential shopping trend. Personalization is definitely a part of the experiential shopping trend. And then on top of that, you can add AR, VR, and you get different experiences. So on our blog, again, you can look at the interview series called Thought Leaders in Electronic Commerce. And that will give you ideas, open problems, how people are doing things, what they're doing. There are all kinds of, there's an interview with the CEO of Upler called Gregoire Chauvin. He discusses the B2B marketplaces trend in depth. So those are, some good pointers. Another video interview that I would point you to on our April 23rd roundtable from this year, just very few weeks back, we had as our guest Garrett Goldberg, partner at B Partners. Garrett discusses his firm's investment thesis. That's an enterprise-focused investment thesis, including some unique insights on SaaS-enabled vertical marketplaces. You can listen to that. If you go to do a search on our website for Garrett Goldberg, you'll find that discussion, and it's a very interesting conversation about SaaS-enabled vertical marketplaces. So those are some pointers. Dig around on the blog and see what other ideas that stirs for you. Next question, what are some good startup ideas in FinTech? FinTech, again, let's start with the trends. There are 2 key trends. All flavors of business and personal credit are going online into FinTech ventures. And all flavors of business and personal payment is going online as digital ventures. So within these 2 broad trends, you need to look at the subcategories and find where the gaps are. Again, we have an interview series on our blog called Thought Leaders in Financial Technologies. We can go through an example. Fund Through, the CEO is Stephen Usher. I brought him onto the TLFT series, and he talks about invoice factoring. It's a subcategory of the first trend, right? Business and personal credit. I asked Steve, broadly in FinTech, where do you see open problems and opportunities for entrepreneurs to start new companies? His answer is there are gaps in cash flow, both in small businesses as well as all aspects in the economy. I saw some interesting data on startups bubbling up in the consumer payroll space as well. They all come down to the same idea, which is you should control when you get the cash. You don't have to wait for somebody else. The payroll trend is interesting because, before, the only way to bridge your cash flow gap, if you were waiting for a paycheck to come in, was to go do payday loans, and they're very high interest loans, etc. There's a whole genre of fintech startups that are coming out that are basically fintech versions of giving you bridge financing while you are waiting for your paycheck, and the paycheck basically acts as collateral for that credit. So these are basically pointers. Again, the process is the same. You go start with the Financial Technology Thought Leadership series, start reading the interviews, start looking at the open problem section, and see where you gravitate. We'll do one more very similar question. How can one start building an online education startup? Again, process is the same. You need to find the idea first, and in parallel, you also have to learn methodology. The methodology learning process I've already discussed. I will go over it again for people who are coming later, perhaps joining in now, but it is the same. You read case studies, you study methodology through the curriculum, through the books, etc. So let's talk about the idea thing. Online education has emerged to be one of the winners of COVID-19 behavior shift. You need to find an idea to latch onto. One observation I have from looking at what's going on in the market is that the K through 12 online learning is doing poorly in the homeschooling mode. Why is that? Over 3/4 of the world's roughly 1.5 billion school children are currently out of school due to COVID-19 lockdowns. One lesson from this crisis: we need free universal internet and computer access, because in the lower rungs of the economic strata, people don't have those things. In 21st century America, this is the 5G digital highway that needs to be built as basic infrastructure as part of the rebuilding effort when the immediate crisis is over. This is what happened after the war. Roads got built, highways got built, and that created a lot of construction jobs and created huge, mobility and demand in commerce in America and in the world. Those countries that were impacted by the World War, that those were ways in which huge building booms happened, and that created a lot of economic prosperity. Distance learning needs to be thought about at a much deeper level as an application on top of that infrastructure. So far, the online learning community has been thinking that the shift is from sage on stage to guide on side within the classroom setting. Remember, in the older days, a teacher is lecturing on the podium and the students are listening as an audience. But with online learning, with Khan Academy, for example, or with edX, the movement has been shifting towards a guidance side model. You ask the students to go study something online from Khan Academy, from edX, from Coursera, and then you come to class, do exercises together, and the teacher is walking around and being a guide on the side rather than delivering the content as a lecture. This shift has been happening already, and this shift has accelerated as part of the COVID-19 behavioral shift. But we now need to think really self-guided learning that doesn't even require guidance on the side. Because if people are going to learn from home, the teacher is not there on a continuous basis. So how do you motivate kids to learn on their own? Is it possible? It is possible, but you're going to need to, all that content and the methodology of doing that kind of intense self-learning doesn't yet necessarily exist in all domains. There are in some. One example I want to share with you, and you can look it up very easily, is if online education is the domain in which you're interested in starting a company, is a language learning app called Duolingo. I use Duolingo to learn French. And Duolingo has done a very nice job of gamifying the app. It's got contests, leaderboards, all kinds of things that help you stay engaged with the process. So this is an example in one domain of gamified learning, and I don't need anybody to do Duolingo with. I can keep myself motivated to do Duolingo. That general concept will need to translate to other domains. And we need similar, interesting, gamified, or, maybe immersive, like virtual reality kind of immersive learning content with which courses with which different subjects can be taught, whether it's history or, etc. So for example, film is a very good way for learning, right? Especially history. There have been so many great films that deal with certain historical periods or certain historical events. And, it's so easy to watch a great film or a great TV series. All this didn't exist when I was a kid. Today it does exist. So I think, and these things people can do on their own. They don't have to necessarily be sitting in class and be lectured at for this kind of learning to happen. So that's, those are some ideas that I have in terms of where you can look for interesting problems. Again, pointer back to the Thought Leaders in Online Education series on our blog. And we cover all segments of online education, K through 12, higher ed, professional ed, continuing ed, every one of them. So one guy I spoke with recently on that series is Greg Smith. He's the CEO of Thinkific. He discusses platform level innovation in edtech. I had Paul Kallenberger, CEO of ZSpace, come on to the series. ZSpace talks a lot about vocational training, and that's a very interesting discussion on vocational training. So, dig around, as I always say, dig around and see what resonates with you, what captures your imagination. You will find ideas. You just have to find an idea where you can bring something to the party to enhance that idea and come up with a good solution. And on the methodology side, of course, you need to find an idea, you need to learn methodology. On the methodology side, I go back to pointing you to case studies. Entrepreneur journeys, we have thousands of case studies, including over 100 unicorn case studies, 400 plus venture funded case studies, another 400 bootstrap case studies. You can read, on a regular daily basis, you can read maybe 5-6 case studies and simulate the experience of having coffee with these entrepreneurs on a regular basis. There are 12 books, case study-based books on the Entrepreneur Journey series as well, available on Amazon digitally. And then the basic program is our monthly subscription program. It's just $99 a month. You get access to our entire online digital curriculum, and you can start learning with that as well. That's a video lectures and case study-based program. So that's, those are my pointers. And of course, come to the roundtables on a weekly basis, and that's another place where I can share some knowledge with you. So I do have a few others which I'm going to take next time. Cybersecurity, we can discuss cybersecurity startup ideas and trends. We can discuss cloud computing startup ideas and trends next time. So that's pretty much it. Your exploration of 1 million by 1 million starts at 1mby1m.com. We can work with any entrepreneur anywhere in the world, and we are fully operational. Throughout this COVID crisis, we have been fully operational. We will continue to be fully operational unless we get sick. So we are at your disposal. Come use these resources as much as you would like to, and keep moving. Don't freeze. It is a very unusual time. There's no question that these are very, very unusual times. But we do need to find a new normal. We do need to remain productive, and we need to keep making progress. So I wish you all the best. Stay safe, stay well, and keep moving. Thank you for coming today. I'll see you. I'll answer some questions after the session in the public chat, so feel free to ask questions there. And if there are questions that need longer answers, we'll factor that into the next week's agenda. Thank you. Bye.